Good evening, everyone. It's evening for me as I'm recording this new video. It's about, squinting at the clock on my MacBook, a little after 10 p.m. So, kind of darkened the room and doing some mood lighting just with the lamp and the track lighting behind me. So, experimenting with all that fun stuff. But in the last video, I was talking about my experiences with an REO Speedwagon fan club and my experiences with those two things on our first REO Speedwagon website, 1996. So now that I've talked about all that, and there was some parts of that history that were not too terribly pleasant and challenging, and of course, as I stated before in the other video, there is so much more to this chapter of my life as a music fan than what's on this video, but for the sake of sensitivity to the people involved and privacy, my own especially, that's as far as I can talk about it right now. So for this video, I'm going to talk about the other much happier side of my time with REO Speedwagon. And that is, as you can see by the title of the video, I've had the honor of being a backstage guest of theirs on several occasions back in the late 90s to early 2000s. And I was able to get these backstage passes from the band, directly from the band's management, through my work with this fan club. So I worked for these passes, and I earned them, and the band actually wanted me backstage. And many times they wanted to give me passes but couldn't, for reasons that I can't really go into right now. But that being said, the fact remains that more often than not, I was able to get passes because they wanted me backstage and look forward to seeing me. And I also know that for a lot of fans, there will be issues of jealousy, and they've never met their favorite band and they want to. And, there's no way that I can talk openly about this without perhaps coming across like I'm bragging or name dropping, but I'm not. I'm going to make one video about this one time, and I might reference it here and there in future videos as I talk about experiences that are similar to that, but I will not talk about, I'm going to go into as little detail as possible in this video. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Okay, start out. I have a binder. It's all my backstage experiences. These are my ticket stubs. These are my backstage passes. I was given 4 official after-show guest passes, but I was backstage 8 times, which means that the times I did not have an actual pass for, I just was there and the band knew I was there and invited me backstage anyway. That was good stuff. Anyway, just to give you a tour of, if you will, no pun intended, of what they look like. This is a VIP laminate pass. They're also known as all access all areas, all access. Kind of the same thing. I don't really know that there's a difference, really. And this, I made a color copy of it for my binder. This is my actual laminate, the lanyard that I used. And I got this one from REO keyboard player Neil Dowdy at my first meet and greet was after the show in Knoxville. Here, all right. I went to see them for the second time ever, in July 1996. My roommate, the fan club president, and I went to the show in Knoxville, and this was where we had, at the time, REO was in get the hang of this thing. REO had a promotional deal with their record label and it's what they called the autograph party. It was a table signing. What that means is the band will sit behind a long table, and then the fans come along and give them stuff to sign assembly line style. And usually it's the same, whatever album or CD they're promoting. Just hand it off one at a time, in succession. And there's really no time for interaction. Usually the lines are very long. In this case, this was a long table signing. And they did this after the show. After the show let out, the band gathered at the table. And for this is their album, Building the Bridge, that came out that year. And the deal was, if you bought your CD or cassette, I don't know if CDs were even out back then. I know there was cassettes. I don't have my cassette that they signed. Unfortunately, anyway. But if you bought the cassette at the merch stand at the show, you got one of these autograph party passes. And this was what we call a stick-on pass, an after-show guest pass, which is very different than the VIP laminate or all-access laminate. And the other two were House of Blues 97 and West Palm Beach Mars Music Amphitheater, co-headlining with Styx in January 26th, 2001. Backwards again. I'll get the hang of this too one day. So there's my passes. I'm not going through each page of this binder, but you can see it's pretty thick. It's got a lot of stuff in it. My ticket stub collections over the years, and I started an REO Backstage website to document all these experiences. It's been long gone. I removed it a long time ago. There's also printouts of my recollections, my experiences from the night, narratives, and then things that I had them sign, like, whoa. That was a picture of drummer Dave Amato. That was bad. Lead guitar player Dave Amato is in the middle photo here. And there's the drummer Brian. Okay, I'm backwards again. There's Brian. Yeah. There's stories behind those photos, but that's what this book is. It's mostly pages from my Backstage website that I printed out. And other related photos and goodies. So I'll put that away. Yay. So, made my notes again, of course. So in total, I went to 17 shows between 1996 and 2003. And of those 17 shows, I showed you my 4 actual Backstage passes, but I was actually backstage a total of 8 times. 4 of them with passes, 4 without. And there was a show that they did in 2004, January of 2004, and they came to, finally, a dream come true that I'd had since I was a wee fan back in junior high school. Came true, and they booked a gig at a venue in my town of Melbourne, Florida, 10 minutes from my house. The only venue we had in 1981, was 30 minutes away, but this time, this was a much newer venue, much nicer, to be quite honest. So they were 10 minutes away. And I found out about the show, not from the band or the management. Oh, did I say that before? That I got my Backstage passes through the band's management. I had a contact there. It was Sarisa. I never got to meet her. Maybe one day. God, I hope so. That would be great. But I would always call a week ahead of the show, just ask if they had passes available. And if they had some available, I would get one. But I had to call and ask. And so I learned the proper protocols and things that you do, how you approach management for passes and things like that. And I enjoyed a really perfect wonderful relationship with Barrett Consolo Management and Cerisa especially. And I did meet their co-manager, Tom Consolo, at a show backstage. But it was just 5 minutes, and I said something really embarrassing to him. I thought it was stupid, and but he probably doesn't remember me anyway. But Cerisa, that worked in their office, she was my buddy. So anyway, that's how I did that. So, and I also, when I talked about the fan club that I worked with, REO Pals International, in the previous video, I also worked directly with the management to put together stuff for the newsletter they gave us, press photos and exclusive interviews. And so Cerisa and I became working buddies, working phone friends. Again, I've never met her. I was out in Los Angeles for a year and a half, not for them, just circumstances beyond my control gave me the opportunity to move there. But, and again, this is one of those things I can't really talk about openly on camera like this, but she wanted to meet me in the office. I was 10 minutes away, but I couldn't. I just could not. She didn't like it, and neither did I, but we had to do what we had to do. We had to follow the rules. So, anyway. But, so when the band REO came to the King Center in Melbourne in January 2004, and I made my usual call, and again, for the same reasons I couldn't visit her in Cerisa in the office in 1999. The same obstacles prevented me from getting a laminate pass for the King Center. And the band all knew where I was from. I was very open about it in social media, and they knew from my work in the fan club where I lived. So and they didn't tell me that they were going to do it. They just surprised me, and I was very surprised and very happy. I got a flyer, actually, for the King Center, and I think my parents got it in the mail. And just like as a calendar of events upcoming the following month, my mom brought me this brochure one night and showed it to me. Why is she handing me this? And I looked at it, and this was in November or December of 2003. And I looked at the grid of the calendar events, and it's a printed brochure. I saw REO Speedwagon. Oh, wow. And that's how I found out. And believe you me, that changed everything. Because all the stuff that I've been going through, and the muckety-muck that I've been surviving, and the challenges and the changes that I've been rolling with, to quote one of their REO's most popular songs, I'd survived. Gloria Gaynor, I will survive. Well, I survived all right. Like a Florida cockroach in summer. I'm impervious. I can't be taken down. But, so what? I don't want to say so what, but I got this brochure at the King Center. I said, ooh. So, of course, naturally, I was all too happy to contact Cerisa the following month. I always waited a week before the actual show day. And I'd gotten complimentary tickets from the gentleman that the venue was named after. And so that's how I got the tickets. But I called the management to see if I could get a laminate. And again, I know better. I was a veteran of this routine. And I'm very respectful of it too. That's the thing. Now I don't know how things are done. I know how things are done today, kind of, sort of, but back in my day, when you got your passes like that, be respectful. Don't assume. Don't feel entitled. Never feel entitled. Even as comfortable as I felt with REO and as comfortable as they felt with me, I knew better. Just be humble and gracious and kind. But it didn't work out. She could not give me a laminate. But And I'm not going to go through the details here, but I count that as a meet and greet. Let me pull it up. Okay, here is. This is the page for my binder here. This is the ad for the show, and then these are my comp ticket, and then the note from Maxwell C. King, who the venue is named after, and my Christmas present. He was worked with my dad in a business capacity, and my Christmas gift to your daughter, because he knew I was a fan. So then so this section of my binder of the King Center section, I included that as a backstage visit because, I wrote notes about it in my narrative that when the guys came out on stage and they saw me, I had front row center stage seats. Not good enough, but the King Center is a small venue. It's like 2,000 seats, but I was second row center stage, not close enough. And I figured once the band comes out, everybody's going to stand up out of their seats and rush the stage, and I'll be buried behind the crowd. So, right before the band came out, I got up from my seat, politely walked up to the edge of the stage, and stood right there in front of it at the edge of the stage. And I was waiting for venue security to tell me to sit back down, but they didn't. Oh, they were there. I think there was one security guy, and they always dressed up at the King Center in a suit and tie or whatever. But nope, he didn't make me sit down, and so I stood there most of the show, and then I never went back to my second row seat. I sat in the front row was completely empty. No, I mean it didn't. The venue did not sell out completely, so there were a few empty seats, and so that's where I sat. I wasn't standing there; I was sitting. And I'd sent a note backstage, in fact, when I got there, to one of their crew members, telling what outfit I was wearing, describing myself. They knew what it looked like, so they knew where I was going to be at, but they probably thought that they were going to just see me from the audience. I told them second row center stage, bright pink pants, white colored shirt with flowers, and they know this, so. But when they came out on stage and they saw me standing there, I got waves and blowing kisses at me and things like that. And the rest of the show, some other things happened that were kind of along those same lines. And then when they did their final curtain call, there was no curtain, but the final bows. And Kevin Cronin, the lead singer, always introduces each band member. And then my buddy, Neil Dowdy, the keyboard player, we were closer friends from being online together in the very beginning. So he and I were really, and they were looking right at me, but I count that as it may not have been a meet and greet in the conventional sense. I didn't have a backstage pass, but I had their attention. And that's the last time I've seen them. So I had a couple shows at the King Center after that, 2013 and 2015. But I was in the nosebleed section, and I always worried back then, and well, now it's really been many years since they've seen me, so I always assumed they'd forget me, but they never did. But now, again, it's been so long. But the fact remains that those are still my experiences and my memories, and I deserve to celebrate them, and I will celebrate them. Okay, so now that we did all that, got that out of the way, that was on my notes, King Center 04. Now, the very last thing I'm going to talk about, I'm going to wrap this video up and upload it. Make sure my notes, I'm leaning my notes against the toaster, on the sideboard on my kitchen counter, I'm waiting for it to, nope, it's going to stay up. I created, this is another show and tell item. Nope. Alright, here we're going to fold the notes over like that. We're going to lay them on the counter. That's good. I got it now. Okay. Hold on. Nah, too many pages. So then, let's see, when did I do this? Backstage version survival guide. Reading my notes to remind myself. Yep. Okay. So in 1998, this was probably 4 meet and greets in, halfway through, I decided that to help my fellow fans have a better experience than what I had the first time. Don't get me wrong, it was a great experience, but I didn't receive the proper guidance about what to expect when you go backstage, and it's totally, when you go backstage for the first time, it's scary and overwhelming, and you're starstruck, and your head's going a mile a minute. So I wanted to provide that guidance to other fans going through that for the first time, to spare them the awkwardness that I felt. And if you would have to have access to me privately to look through this book, and then I could tell you the whole story about Knoxville 96, my first time. But suffice to say that I created in 1998 the official Kimmer's Backstage Guide, the official Kimmer's Backstage Guide, the ultimate Kimmer's Survival Guide for Backstage Virgins. And there's the band photo. And then this was I had an REO website at the time. I went to graphic design school and learned how to do websites. I had a couple of my own at the time. Those were, in the previous video I talked about my various online activities that I did. And that was one of them. It was my own websites as well as other people's chat pages. And then I put a cover letter, if you will, just for the fans that were reading it, and what I wanted to, my purpose for doing this, and then the pages, and then I had a picture of my backstage passes, and then chapter 1. And I'm not going to go through all this in detail, but it was in several chapters like this, backstage meet and greet road rules about what a backstage pass actually does, where you can go with it or where you can't go with it, what to expect. I color-coded the different blocks of text to make it colorful and stand out, and just to make it appealing. One of the things I learned at Kaiser College. Got my associate's degree in computer graphic design. Just for websites, to do REO websites, but oh, I learned so much more. That's where I learned Photoshop. Oh wow, I'm still into Photoshop to this day. I'd be lost without Photoshop, to be quite honest. Anyway, then there was the official Kimmer's Handy Dandy Guide to Backstage Schmoozing. That band photo again. And now this part is a 2-page front and back, and I actually printed this out and gave it to at least one fan that I know of, maybe a second one. I'll talk about them in a minute. So this is a 2-page front and back, collage of band photos on the back, but I gave pointers on what to talk about, what they could talk about with each band member as they met them, in case they were stranded for what do I say, and he's right in front of me, and if you get one thing out of each one, I did a separate paragraph, separate color coding for each band member, flip it over on the back, and then the collage, and yep. So based on hobbies that they had, how tall they are, things, just little tidbits that they could, if you remember only one thing from each paragraph. Oh, I hear you're into golf, or I hear you're into this, that, or the other. Oh yeah, that's cool. And then they would start up a conversation. Then they'd relax. Maybe the fan that read this would have these same interests. Just a point of communication with the band members to break the ice. And that. And then the last, chapter 2, right? Okay. Frequently asked questions about meet and greets, and then a photo gallery of different backstage photos with the band I got from other fans, and and then and you get the idea. So this was all part of Backstage Virgins, and then I guess I am showing it, but I'm not going to read it. The very last page was Time for Me to Fly, kind of final thoughts and wishes, and the band's management address for fan mail. And then my email address, things like that. So that was that. And I gave that, when I wrote that guide, I did so for a fan named Susan. I knew her from, she might have been a member of REO Pals International. But I was talking with her. She was an online buddy of mine from the REO chat pages. And so she said she was going to a show close to her house, and she got a backstage pass, I believe, through a radio station contest or some such thing. Might have gotten them from the management. I don't know. It's not really any of my business. But she got a backstage pass, and she was nervous about being in the band. So I said, well, I wrote this Backstage Virgins Survival Guide, giving you things, how it works, and frequently asked questions. Would you like to receive a copy? She said, oh, yes, absolutely. That would be so great. Thank you. So I emailed it to her, or snail mailed it probably, whatever. And she took it backstage with her. Now, her photo with Kevin, she has a couple of photos of Kevin signing her pass on her shirt, but I don't have those in here. But, oh, she told me about it. I have other photos that, memories, but no. So she was the first recipient of the Backstage Virgin Survival Guide. Greatly appreciated. So I felt like I had, because by that time I was feeling like I've been so blessed, and I want to pay it forward to other fans every chance I get. And I was able to do that with Susan, and then that was in 1998. I was not at the show that she was at. I just sent her the guide, and so then in 2001, yep. I remember my pass from the front of the book was in West Palm Beach Mars Music Amphitheater after show. That one, I was only going to go to one show in 2001, and that was the Amway Arena in Orlando. Now it was called the Orlando Arena, and Amway Arena. Now it's been changed names 400 times. Amway Arena, Orlando. I was only going to go to that one show, and I couldn't get passes for that either. Anyway, that's a whole other, but it was a show. I did have the show experience. And so this time I was talking to, but before I went to the show, I was talking to my buddy Cerisa at the band's management. And I said, well, I'm going to be at the Orlando Arena show this year. And she said, you can have as many passes as you want. I'm like, oh, I've been waiting so long to hear that. And so I was like, okay. I took her up on it. So I said, I just need three. I need one for myself and one for my mom, one for my dad. She said, you got it. So she started working on that. And then after that phone call, I started talking to a friend of mine also. I believe she was a member of REO Pals. Her name was Tacey. And she lived in West Palm Beach, Fort Pierce. But the show was in West Palm, which is about 20-30 minutes from there. And I started talking to her on the phone one day just about REO stuff, as we always did. And she started talking about, I really love to meet the band, and I've never been backstage, and how do you get backstage passes? And that's a subject I'm going to talk about in a future video, in a future vlog. How do I get backstage passes? Ugh. It's a dicey subject for anyone with backstage experience. And again, we'll talk about that later, but for right now, for me talking to her, and I know that fans always feel that way, and I've been blessed, so I can't get every single person I meet backstage, obviously. But I knew her very well and I was comfortable with her. And she started talking, I want to meet the band. It's been a dream of mine. And I got an idea because Teresa had just told me, you can have as many passes as you want for this tour. I'm like, okay. She didn't say a laminate pass. It doesn't really matter. Backstage pass is backstage pass. So I got to thinking about it without saying anything to Tacy. I didn't want to make a promise I couldn't deliver on. When we got done with our phone call, I called Teresa back at the management. I said, hey, Teresa, is it possible for me to snag... I think Tacy had said it's going to be me, my husband, and then they had 2 neighbors of theirs. So 4 people were going to be going to that show. And they got their own tickets. That was no problem there. So I knew there was going to be 4 of them. So I called Teresa back and I said, hey, Teresa, can I snag 4 shows for Mars Music Theater in West Palm? She said, yep. I said, okay, let me give you their names. So once I had a commitment from Teresa, I called this. I remember that to this day, this was the happiest. And I remember that night when I went backstage with them. But that call back to her, and I felt like I'm Santa Claus. I'm about to give her. I gave her the gift that I can't give every fan, but I was able to do that for her. And I told her, hey, guess what? And she says, what? And I said, I just talked to my buddy in REO's management office, and I got my passes for Orlando. I think it was on February 3rd or 5th or something. And this show was on the 26th of January. And she said that she can give you, John, and the 2 neighbors, all 4 of you, after show passes for West Palm. She says, and she had the same reaction that you would expect. Oh my God. Thank you. And I was just sitting back going, damn. I was so happy that I could do that for her. Because during the course of my tenure, as I like to call it, my time with the fan clubs and the websites and the stuff like that, there was a lot that happened that I couldn't do anything about, that I couldn't help another fan's dream come true, but I could do this one. This one was doable. And after she calmed down and could continue talking to me like a civilized human being, and so I said, I already knew she had tickets, so I told her, you've got your tickets already, so all you have to do is, I started explaining to her about Will Call booth, and I said, wait a minute. I've got this Backstage Virgin Survival Guide that I wrote. I'm going to send that to you. You can look it over. You and John can look it over, and the 2 neighbors. And then if you have any questions, call me back. I've already written it for 3 or 4 years earlier. It was proven. Susan in the previous show, 98, put it to the test, and it worked. So I sent, and rather than me having to get out and stay on the phone and explain all this to them, which was too much information they probably wouldn't remember anyway, something they could physically hold in their hand. That's why I designed it that way. Physically take it with you to the show, and even after the last minute, you could be flipping through the pages. And then, okay. So, but I thought that's what was going to happen. She and John and their neighbors were going to go backstage on their own. I was set for my show in Orlando 5 days later, but Tacy turned the tables on me, and Tacy said, I'm not going to the show without you. I said, oh, okay. I was not expecting that. I was just giving her a gift, being generous, because I liked her and I wanted to make this happen for her. And I didn't know she did it out of wanting to pay me back. She didn't say that, but she said, I'm not going to the show without you. And I said, I only have 1 ticket. I have my ticket for the Orlando show already, and I don't have any more money for another ticket. She said, I will buy your ticket for you. I'm not going without you. And I said, oh. And Tacy was a waitress at Denny's. She did not have a lot of money herself, but that impressed me that I don't know where she got the other tickets. She probably bought them, obviously. But the fact that she would spring for my ticket really impressed me. So I said, I've got to go. I'm going to have 2 shows this year instead of 1. So I said, okay, I will get a Greyhound bus ticket to Fort Pierce. You picked me up at the Fort Pierce Greyhound station, and I stayed with her and John, her husband John, and the 2 neighbors next door. I never got to. They were at the show with us. I just don't remember meeting them. Sorry, guys. Other names were Dave and Rich, I believe. They were there with us, but I don't remember really talking to them all that much. And there's more to the story about West Palm that's in my Backstage binder, that Backstage scrapbook that I'm not going to get into. But anyway, the Tacey, John, and company story that is also part of the Backstage Virgin Survival Guide. That was the second and so far the only time I've ever given that out to people. And now, of course, it's horribly out of date. And I know now that band backstage protocols are very different, and now bands have these VIP meet and greet packages for a couple hundred or a couple $1,000s, and you get this, and that, and I'll never do that. I'm spoiled for the old school ways, and if I can't have that, then anything else would just be a letdown, so I would save my money. But anyway, that's it. Those are all my notes, and you can see how excited I get talking about my backstage experiences, which I don't get to do really ever. I think right now in front of this camera, talking to you guys is the most I've ever talked about them. So I'll get to share my stories offline one day. I believe that. But in the meantime, I have my vlogs. So I just wanted to share all that with you to say that that was the other half of my, what I call my REO resume. The resume that started it all in my future dealings with other bands that I'm going to be talking about in the series, next few videos in this My Life as a Rock Fan series. But that's a critical part of it. It wasn't just paying my dues and getting my ass kicked on websites by other fans. No, there was a happy side to it as well, working directly with the management, as I did. And the last phone call I had with Sarisa from the management was in 2004. And no, I could talk to you about what happened to the band. I could tell so much more, but there's not enough screen time for that. It's too much. So don't be assured that the stories are not limited to what I'm sharing here. But okay, I think that will do it. And just one little page of notes this time. I threw this together spontaneously in the last couple hours. I remember doing the REO and the website, REO and the World Wide Web video, and I thought, I never brought up backstage passes. I need to do that. My backstage stuff. So now I have. And now you know just a little bit of what I know. And maybe one day we'll get to meet and I'll tell you more. And you'll get to go through my binder, my scrapbook about backstage stuff. And we'll chit chat. But in the meantime, I'm going to go upload this. How are we doing? Runtime. Oh, wait a minute. Glasses. Do not terrify your audience, Kimberly. Thank you. 38 minutes. Okay, good. All right. See you guys on the next one. Bye.